All right, here is another excerpt from the book Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. I'm doing a series on this book, and I'm putting it in the format of kind of bite-sized information for you to think about on your own. And if it encourages you to get the book, fantastic. Mostly my desire is just to have you have just some sort of discourse around the idea of, is there a God? Does he want to have a relationship with you? How do you go about doing that if that is true? So here we go. Today's topic is, what is a disciple? Okay. So I'm reading from the book. Who are you following? Everybody is following somebody, or at least something. Put it another way, we're all disciples. And the question isn't, am I a disciple? It is, who or what am I a disciple of? I know. What I just said is akin to heresy in the modern world. We want to so badly believe that we, and we alone, plot our course, captain our ship, control our destiny. We aspire to lead, not to follow. But question, how is that working for you? Do you ever feel that nagging thought tug at the back of your mind? Is the life I'm living the life I most deeply desire? Is this it? So he goes on to say, just the idea of especially, I would say for people who live in the United States, this rugged idealism of we make our own decisions and we answer to no one is really, it's gotten to epidemic proportions where you don't even think you need family for any reason. But I think at the core of all of us, there maybe was once a time we wanted community, and then something tends to happen that cause you to no longer want that sort of connection anymore. I know that has happened to me over the years. So here it goes on to say, and yet no man is an island, or no woman. And as the poet John Donne once said, and no woman is either, in the words of the New York Times columnist Tish Harrison Warren, none of us comes to what we believe by ourselves. The world has no free thinkers. Powerful forces have a vested interest in our believing the myth, and it is a myth, that we are following no one at all. Many of the cultural liturgies that indoctrinate us daily, be true to yourself, you do you, speak your truth, can be traced back to sources with a nefarious agenda. If they, whether multicultural corporations, politicians, anti-democratic government agents, marketing departments, influencers, who just want more followers, etc., can make us believe that each person is a blank slate just following the inner compass of our authentic self in an upward march to happiness, then they can keep us blind to all the ways we've been discipled, formed, and manipulated by their desires. Any skilled con artist knows the key to deceiving your mark is to get them to believe your scheme was their idea. Translation: the key to getting people to follow you is to convince them they aren't following anyone at all. He continues, with the rise of social media empires and their spooky digital algorithms, these powerful forces now have direct access to our flows of consciousness every time we slide our thumbs across our phones. What we are led to believe are just ads, news links, retweets, and random digital flotsam are in reality mass behavior modification techniques intentionally designed to influence how we think, feel, believe, shop, vote, and live. To quote the tech philosopher Jaron Lanier, what might once have been called advertising must now be understood as continuous behavior modification on a titanic scale. Now, what is all this forming us into? Because we are each becoming something, that's the crux of the human experience, the process of becoming a person. To be human is to change, to grow, to evolve. And the question is not, am I becoming a person? It's who or what am I becoming? If you plot the trajectory of your life over the next 5 decades and envision yourself at 70, 80, or 100, what kind of person do you see on the horizon? And does the projection in your mind fill you with hope or dread? For those of us who desire to follow Jesus, here's the reality we must turn to and face. If we're not being intentionally formed by Jesus himself, then it's highly likely we are unintentionally being formed by someone or something else. So again, who are you following? The deeper question here is, in whom are you trusting? Who or what do you put your faith in to show you the way to the life you desire? And this author says, it's my conviction that contrary to what we hear, living by faith isn't a Christian thing or even a religious thing. It's a human thing. We all live by faith. The question isn't, am I going to believe? It's who or what am I going to believe in? Meaning, who or what am I going to entrust my life to? Do I really want to trust myself, or any other human for that matter? We creatures who seem to have gotten ourselves into a very fine mess. And how are we trying to fix it? It's only human to be drawn to someone, a celebrity or a guru or a historical figure, and to desire to become like them. And this is part of how God wired us to grow. We all have an ideal life that we aspire to. And when we find a person or an idea system that seems to embody what we want, we follow them. We put our trust in them. Or in Christian language, we believe. So again we ask, what do you believe in? Who is your luminary of choice? The person whose orbit you would give anything to spend a few days living in. Put another way, who is your rabbi? So I've already started to talk a little bit about what this means to have a rabbi. But I think this is something we really do have to come to terms with. We are always following something or someone. And it's worth taking the time to take inventory of what that entity is that you're following. Because I think gone are the days where you could innocently and mindlessly just let life happen to you. I mean, I can tell you just from personal experience, having a child that's kind of trapped in something that he can't seem to get out of. And then what we tend to do because of shame or guilt is we just keep doubling down on this thing that we know is not good for us. And then what happens if then you've fallen for someone who has the capacity to just take mercilessly? And then what do you do? Because then even the ones who could help you out of it, you can't trust them. Because how can you trust yourself to trust someone to get you out of it when you can't even understand how you got into this? And so I hope just not even thinking about God per se, but just really thinking about you really do assimilate to the things that you surround yourself with. And especially young people, you have to be so careful and be willing to, when your eyes are open, to let go of whatever it is that you think is somehow going to be so shameful, or you're going to be mocked or laughed at. And unfortunately with social media, I mean, that is a possibility, right? It's a possibility for those that you no longer want to let control you will come back at you in so many ways. I mean, it's just awful. But even with that, be brave enough to make the decision to change and to move away from anything or anyone that is controlling you in a way that's harmful.